Hello, everybody, and welcome to episode 2 of the Valley Golf Guys podcast. I am Mark, along with Kyle here.
This episode's going to be a good one. We're out at Mirabel Golf Club for the Maui Jim Intercollegiate Invitational Tournament. We had an interview with Ryan Donovan, head coach of the San Diego State Aztecs, coach also of Xander Schauffele.
Yeah, Ryder Cup team member.
Right, he played at San Diego State. He played with Scott Piercy. So got a lot of experience there. Had a lot of interesting things to say, and we were very enlightened by the information that he gave us.
Very fortunate to be able to go out there. We can't thank them enough for letting us go out there and spend some time with the guys on the range and see how they hit it. We were very impressed with how the kids hit it, and I think you'll be impressed with their scores as well.
Yeah, definitely. So sit back, relax, enjoy this episode. And we did have a little bit of wind, a little disclaimer, there was some wind out there, so some of the sound gets a little broken up at times, so just kind of bear with the podcast, bear with us on that.
It's worth it. You get some good content.
Exactly, nothing we can kind of do about that. So enjoy it, and we'll talk to you later.
He's the guy of the ball! Jesus Christ!
Yeah, kid, park my car, get my bags, and put on some weight, will you? Like, can you have a half a dozen of those Vulcan D10s and set my friend up here with the whole schmear? You know, clubs, bags, shoes, gloves, shirt, pants. Hey, orange balls. I'll have a box of those. Give me a box of those naked lady tees, and give me 2 of those. Give me 6 of those. Oh, it looks good on you, though.
We are live from Mirabel Golf Club in Scottsdale, Arizona, site of the 2021 Maui Jim Collegiate Invitational Tournament.
Beautiful day out here today.
Absolutely. I got sunglasses on.
They're necessary.
Yes.
Which is very fitting because it's the Maui Jim Intercollegiate, so you might as well have your sunglasses on.
I do actually feel kind of bad that I'm wearing Oakley's.
But that's okay because Oakley's your brand. Shout out to Oakley.
Shout out to Oakley. And Maui Jim.
We love them all.
We do.
As long as they protect your eyes, we love them all.
Right. So this is a very special opportunity for us. We have, how many teams are out here for this event?
So I'm just bringing up the tee sheet right now. So we have Alabama, Clemson, Georgia Tech, Auburn, Louisville, Georgia State, Arizona State individuals, Washington, Arizona individuals, Arizona, San Diego State, New Mexico, Oregon, and California. Quite a list.
Yeah, the very impressive list. So a lot of, what you're saying is that we have a lot of extremely good young talent.
Oh yeah, I mean,
not here this week.
No, I would not even say good. I would say great.
Right.
Yeah,
so we're
top golfers.
So today's Thursday. So they got their practice round today. So David Ingram, director of golf out here at Mirabel, was nice enough to invite us and have us out here on the range today. So we're out here at the practice facility, and we're going to get some interviews going. Talk to these kids about what it's like to play collegiately at such a high level. You know, kind of what it took to get there, and just their thoughts and feelings on the event.
Yeah, we know you can't see it from where you're sitting, but we got the University of Alabama warming up here right in front of us. They're the first to tee off today here in the practice round, so we'll hopefully get them over. We're going to have a closest to the hole contest with our FlightScope Mevo Plus. Got it set up at Stone Canyon. We're going to have a 97 yard hole, somewhere right in there, 97 to 100. Going to let them hit some closest to the hole shots, see how close they can get it, maybe get a hole in one. So that'll be fun, and we don't really have anything for that, but just see who we can, bragging rights. We'll call it bragging rights for the win there.
Right, definitely. Yeah, today's going to be a lot of fun. Looking forward to hearing what these kids have to say, and what I think is really cool also is that, you know, this is a course where we're lucky enough to have the opportunity to play, you know, during the summertime quite often.
Right. Oh, we've talked about how much we love this course, too.
Right.
So,
yeah,
I mean,
definitely
just
one of our favorites. Absolutely. Definitely one of our favorite tracks. So, and most of these kids can definitely score a little bit better than we can.
Yeah, it's interesting standing here on the driving range because when I came out here the other day and University of Arizona was out here, and it was a little intimidating standing on the range hitting some shots because you knew where the bad shots were coming from. You know, they made a distinct noise and it was coming from our end of the range. It was a stripe show on the other end of the range, so we knew who the good golfers were on that end of the range.
Absolutely. So just a little bit more information on this event. So Mark listed off all the teams that are here. Each team gets to bring 5 players, And each day, they're going to be taking 4 of the best out of the 5 scores. 3-round event, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. And they'll also award low individuals for the event. So we talked to Dave this morning, Dave Ingram, and obviously he's been here for a number of these Maui Jims, maybe all of them. And he says usually the winning score is somewhere around 14 under for an individual over the 3 rounds, and the team combined total over 3 rounds is going to be something mid-20s under par.
And that's pretty wild because this isn't an easy course. I mean, if you hit it long, it could definitely make it easier, but it's not an easy course by any means.
No, I mean, it's desert golf, right? So you have to get it in play off the tee. If you don't, I mean, you're definitely looking at bogey at best.
Oh yeah, and it's there's a couple short holes that entice you to maybe hit a little bit longer club. 5, for example, you can hit driver, but it seems like every time you hit driver there, it's never going to be in a good spot. So you could just hit a shorter iron out there, mid iron, get yourself in play. Don't take yourself out of it. I think that's how you're really going to score out here.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, all these guys are going to be, conditions are good. Fairways are probably a little soft, so they aren't going to get a ton of roll.
We've had a lot of rain recently.
We have, and so the greens are going to be very receptive. So I mean, these guys are going to be throwing darts in there.
Yeah, it's definitely not going to be the typical scores that we're used to seeing when we go out and play. Not too far off, I guess, but we can fire up some mid 60s, some high 60s, but some of these guys are going to be going low 60s, possibly 60, 61, 62. You're going to see a few of those here from that kind of tournament.
Absolutely, and these greens are bent grass here, so and I'm sure they'll have them rolling really, really well. Maybe not crazy fast, maybe 11 feet on the stimp. I mean, that's probably all the faster they can make it this time of the year without risking hurting the greens and burning them out, because we're forecasted for temperatures up close to 100, maybe a couple degrees over 100 for this weekend. And if they cut them too low and get them going too fast, they have a risk losing them. But they're always going to be smooth and very true. So I would expect these guys to be making a lot of putts this weekend.
Well, and let's talk about that real fast too, because I feel like the greens and the grass on the greens has a big difference into what you're going to score. Because in Arizona here, we see a lot of different types of grass, where maybe if you grow up in a colder weather state, you may only see one type of grass. Something like a bent grass on the greens, maybe a Kentucky bluegrass or a zoysia in the fairways where the ball sits up really well. Here in Arizona, we see a very wide variety of temperatures, so we need grasses that can handle that. So those cold weather grasses, those bent grasses, Kentucky bluegrass, they don't hold up as well in the heat. So you see a lot of Bermuda down here in Arizona. This is a unique property because it's a little bit higher up, so you can use those little bit cooler weather grasses, but that grass plays a big difference on if you're going to be able to hold putts a lot. If you're playing on a Bermuda with a lot of grain, and for people that don't know about grain, if you're unfamiliar with it, grain is just the way the grass lays with a certain type of blade. So if a Bermuda, thicker blade, there's going to be a lot more grass. There's going to be a lot of grain in that putt. So if you're hitting a putt into the grain, you're going to have to hit that putt a lot harder. If you don't strike it well, it's going to go offline a lot easier. So there's a lot more factors that come into play when you're playing on Bermuda as opposed to playing on a bent grass like this. You just have to take into account a lot more things, make you think a lot more if you're going to want to be able to play golf. And I just wanted to discuss those type of changes with the grasses here, because I feel like when we've been playing on some of the Bermuda grasses lately, we definitely haven't been scoring as well.
Oh, definitely. So Bermuda grass, which some of you may know, some may not, likes to grow out. Sideways away, right? Likes to go horizontally across the ground, which is really good for regeneration, because if you make a divot in a week, that's probably going to be healed back, because it's going to kind of sew itself back together in a sense. You fill it with sand, it's going to grow itself back together, right? So it does the same thing on the greens. Obviously, we aren't worried about, only worried about pitch marks on the greens, but just to give you a visual, that grass is growing directionally sideways, right? And grain likes to grow downhill. Right, so if you have a putt that's kind of up and over a slope on the green, your first part of that putt's going to be into the grain, but the second half of that putt is going to be going down grain, so it makes the speed that much harder to judge. So with bent grass likes to grow vertically up and down, right? So the only thing really affecting the grain might be the way the mower rolled over it in the morning. Right, the direction the guy was cutting the greens, whatever that may be. So you don't got to factor it in nearly as much. But when you're putting on the Bermuda grass and that grain's laying sideways, you really got to think about it hard, which makes, holing putts that much more difficult, especially when you're inside of 10 feet.
Right, yeah, because you're not going to get away with those kind of ones that you just eke in there, where if you're down grain or on bent grass greens, it's going to kind of roll end over end a lot more. If you're going into the grain, you kind of have to give it a little bit of a pop just to get it going, and that brings into a lot more miss hits, poor strikes, just lines that don't get started on the right line, just a lot more factors that you can miss and things that you can get wrong. So I think it's real important when you're putting on those types of grasses, the Bermudas, anything like that, you have to have a quality strike, or else it's just going to go offline. If you're putting down grain, you can get away with that stuff. You can get away with mishitting it just a little bit. You can get away with it rolling out because the down grain's not getting all that friction that it's getting into the grain.
Absolutely. So, give you a little bit of information on the golf course these guys will be playing this weekend. So, Mirabel, Tom Fazio design. And Fazio's actually, designed quite a few courses in the valley, so I'm sure a lot of our listeners have played a Fazio design before.
And before we get too much into the course too, there's a story that's I like to tell about this course that you hear a lot about, and it's actually been redesigned. There was a course underneath it basically that was a Greg Norman design, and I've heard from many different people this same story, so I don't know it myself, so I'm just going off of what I hear, but it was too tough to play. And it's funny when you're out there because you could be out on hole like 16T and you look off towards, there's a little water feature that's not really in play, and there's a ball washer that's just out in the middle of the desert, and you're kind of wondering what that's from, but that's from the old course that was there, that was sitting there, and it just didn't get moved. It's so far off in the desert they just kind of left it, but this course is basically sitting on top of the other course. So Greg Norman initially designed it was too hard. He didn't want to come back and redesign it, so Tom Fazio actually did the redesign.
That's a very interesting piece of information. I actually didn't know that.
Yeah, I've heard that 3 or 4 times.
That's pretty awesome.
Yeah.
I love it. That's a really good plug.
Yeah, next time you're looking at, when you're out on hole 16T, look over to the right, over by the lake over there, the lake that you pass from 15 to 16. There's a ball washer just out in the middle of nowhere. There's also one on 3T you can see out in the middle of nowhere too.
So the old routing of the course went through there.
Yeah, and it must have just been, it seems like it's out, obviously we're out in the middle of nowhere right now, but it seems like when you're out on the course, that is out in the middle of nowhere.
The standard layout for the championship tees here at Mirabel is a par 71. All right, par 36 on the front 9 going out, par 35 coming in. Now, when you have high-skilled players playing a golf course, sometimes the tournament committee will alter the course in a way to help protect par.
And you see it on tour all the time, right? Where they move the tees different days. You have a multi-day tournament too, so that also factors in where you move the tees around, make it different.
Right, exactly. So what they've done here, okay, is the seventh hole is a par 5 here at Mirabel. From the championship tees, it plays 558. So for a lot of people, 558 seems like a long hole, but for these guys, that's easily reachable in 2 unless the wind happens to be going in their face, right?
Yeah,
then that might change things.
Turned into a fairly short par 5 for them.
Right, exactly. So what they're going to do for at least one day is they're going to move the tees up 1 box to 526 yards and make it play as a long par 4.
And we actually got to do that the other day, and it did play pretty tough. So that's going to be a really good par 4 for him.
Yeah, absolutely. And what it does also is it kind of narrows the landing area. So it makes driver even that much harder to hit because
that's a good point.
When you're playing the back tees and it's 558, your landing area, you're playing the golf course kind of how it's designed, so that landing area is a little bit more generous. Well, now you move these tees up, and that landing area kind of actually gets narrowed, making a little bit the drive, the tee shot that much harder. And obviously these guys still got to be hitting driver most likely because they're planning on hitting the green in 2 if it's a par 4.
Right. Yeah, you have to get there in 2.
Right, exactly. There's no laying up on a par 4 here, that's for sure.
Yeah, I hope not.
Right, unless they're forced to if they hit in the desert or something, right? So then another hole that they actually change, which is a lot of fun, is the 11th hole. Par 3, from the back tees, how it normally plays standard, is about 180 yards to the center of the green, right? And it's a good par 3 because it's kind of a narrow green, okay? Just trying to paint the picture here. On the left side of the green, you got 2 bunkers, and on the right side of the green, you have a severe drop-off about 5 yards right of the edge of the green down into rocky desert.
Right. Yeah, it is not a, you do not want to miss it right.
Right, so when they move that tee up and make number 7 play as a par 4, what they're going to do is they're going to move the tee on 11, the par 3, to actually the back tee box of number 18. So 18T, actually, the back tee box has a view of 11 green. So they're going to move the tee for 11 back to that box, and it's going to make it play around about 205 to 210 to the center of that green.
And it's usually playing slightly into the breeze a little bit too.
Right.
So that usually maybe a little bit right to left. So that becomes a pretty tough hole because the green is really narrow. And they can do that because 18, how long is 18 from the back tee? Par 4?
18 from the back tee is listed as 474.
So it's not a short hole. It's definitely going to be shorter than number 6 with it being played up as a par 4. But moving that tee up necessarily isn't too penalizing because that is a really long hole and a challenging hole to begin with anyway. So if you move that up, make that a little bit, I don't want to necessarily say easier because it's only going to be maybe 2 clubs shorter coming in. But it makes it a little bit more challenging on that par 3 and a little bit better view. It's a really cool tee box from back there.
Yeah, it's a really cool view. So when they put the tee box for 11, move it over to 18 back tee, then they'll move, as Mark was saying, they'll move 18T up for the par 4, which will make it play around 440. So it's not like it's making it play that much easier.
No, it's still going to be fairly long for them. Or it's not fairly long for them. It would be longer for us or most average golfers, but that's going to be actually playing more like driver 9-iron driver pitching wedge for most of these guys.
Right, exactly. So if you had to guess, how far, on average are these guys hitting it off the tee? Your average one, not the longest, not the shortest, right in the middle. What do you think?
Carry, probably right about 300, 310.
I'd say that's a pretty good estimate, yeah.
Yeah, and then you're probably getting about 10 yards of roll out here today. So the average drive, I would say, is probably going about 310, 320.
Right.
So, and that's the average drive, folks. So there's guys who are going to hit it shorter than that. There's guys who are going to hit it longer than that. So probably some of the ones that you see going closer to the 20 under number or something like that are going to be a little bit longer.
Chris Endress is currently on assignment.
And now, San Diego State Aztecs men's golf coach, Ryan Donovan. Yeah, we can't thank you enough for coming on, man. That's awesome.
No, I appreciate it. No worries.
So I always tell Kyle when I played in high school and college, my coach would just drop us off, and he'd be like, "All right, guys, have fun," and he'd go play another course somewhere close. So.
Right.
So you're doing a lot more than he ever did.
Yeah, sometimes that's better.
Yeah. Go ahead, Kyle.
All right, so kind of what we, obviously thank you for taking time out of your day, Ryan, to have a quick interview. So we kind of, just kind of want to pick your brain a little bit about what it's like to coach at a high level, what the players kind of go through, how they prepare, how much time they invest in the game, and what you do to prepare them, for events. Obviously, you were an excellent junior golfer yourself, as far as your dad tells me. And then also, if you don't mind, we'd love to, talk to you a little about Xander and, what it was like to, coach now a current Ryder Cupper.
Yeah, no worries. Appreciate it, guys. I think the biggest thing, coaching at this level is recruiting. I mean, you got to get those players that are self-motivated, that want to, be on the tour, at least have that as their goal when they get started. That obviously changes throughout college. They fall in love or, maybe want to get a job or whatnot. But if you get those self-motivated kids, I think that's been our success in terms of the recruiting side of things. And we get guys a little bit under the radar. We're a top 25 program, but maybe on paper we get overlooked a little bit. So we kind of get guys that roll up their sleeves a little bit, put in a lot of work, and play with an edge. And that's kind of been the story of our success.
That's awesome. How many years have you been coaching for San Diego State now?
18.
Wow.
Yes.
I didn't realize it was that many.
Right. Yeah,
that's
time
impressive.
flies. As you guys know, when you love what you do, it's just you just keep doing it.
Sure. What was the program like when you took the job? Was it successful as it
It was solid. Yeah, the platform was there definitely. I played at San Diego State. I was average in college, but we had some good years for sure. Played with Scott Piercy, who's on the tour now.
Very nice.
And so he kind of set the tone a little bit. And obviously JJ Spawn played for me, who just kept his card, which was great. And Xander, watching his success has been just a pleasure.
That's awesome. So, what was the recruiting process like for Xander? Where'd you find him? How'd you get to know him?
Well, I'll tell you guys a funny story. So we recruited him pretty hard. He's from San Diego, and I offered him only 50%. And I lost him to Long Beach State. They gave him a full ride. They were a lot smarter than I was. And he went there for a year, and then his coach, Ryan Ressa, went to work for TaylorMade. And there was no coach there for a while. And so his dad was his instructor, and his team was down in San Diego. So it was just a good fit to come back. So we had him for 3 years. Luckily, I was able to step up on the dollar amount to get him to come. And he was a joy to coach. I really just stayed out of the way, to be honest. His dad was very involved, and they had a good team, and I was more of a support system. And he was one of the hardest workers I've had, and that shows with the success now.
Is there something that you can point to or see that, like, looking back on that, like, oh, that's when I knew he was going to make it to that level? Or is there something that, like, someone like he has, or something that he has other than, like, other players don't, that stands out? Or do you kind of sometimes it's just random?
He just had that killer mentality. He just wanted to win every time he teed it up. He had all the shots. He wasn't afraid to try shots, especially in college. And honestly, I think the biggest thing that was holding us back was his putting. It was a little streaky at times, but he has a great golf coach, Derek Ueda, out at the Grand Del Mar, and once they started working together, that really just took him over the top.
That's interesting, yeah, because we've never had anything obviously near that level, but we could see with some of the juniors that we have, obviously some are better than others, but with a few of them, it's like, wow, this kid is going to be really good. You can really tell that they have something special, and I just didn't know if maybe something stood out that maybe one person had that others don't. You just kind of notice it right away, or if maybe just hard work, putting in the time, and if you're just willing to do it, then almost anybody could do it if you have the talent to and put it in. Grind it out, basically.
Yeah, that's really was his mentality and the mental side of things. You can't be afraid to mess up. I think a lot of people try to be so perfect nowadays and don't want to hit a bad shot or see the water and things of that nature. And he just had that mentality, like, I'm going to hit it and see where it goes and go from there. So I think that's good for the younger juniors to kind of learn to play fearless.
Yeah, especially when they have that skill, because they all pretty much have it. They're just swinging away, and then it's almost just the bad shots that creep into the mind that kind of take away from that free ability swing, right? Just the free swing and ability. They have those bad memories, and that just creeps in, and then you just kind of lose that free swing.
Yeah, definitely. No, it's spot on. And it's funny, the last semester that he was here, he took all night classes, which I was like, oh, that's kind of a grind, 7 to 9:40 Monday through Thursday. But we'd go to workouts, and he'd go practice on his own wherever he wanted to go, and then he'd meet us at 1 o'clock for team practice, and never even told us about it till the end of the year, honestly.
That's impressive.
He was just that kind of guy, and very focused, and I think that's what you have to do.
Yeah, taking advantage of every minute, literally every minute of the day.
Right.
That's impressive.
With
a PGA Tour major, do you think rank higher than an Olympic win?
Right. That's such a good question. And going into it, the week before he wasn't even going to go because travel restrictions and things of that nature. And he said it was just a very rewarding win. And his dad was there, which is special because he was trying to be an Olympian at one point. And so to share that bond as well with his dad, I think just had a lot of value that they'll always remember.
Awesome. That's really cool.
So as far as your coaching goes now with the group of kids that you have,
and we got a prime view of them right here. They're about 20 feet away from us here on the deck here, right on the range.
Just put on a stripe show for us.
Grinding.
How many hours a week do they put into the game between workouts, meetings, playing, practicing?
Yeah, so with NCAA rules, technically we only are allowed 20 hours with them, which is very minimum. And if that's all you do, you won't be on this range right now.
Right.
So luckily, like I said, you motivated guys that want to get good and play well together as a team, and they push each other, they practice together, they do a lot more. But we do workouts 2 days a week at 6 a.m. and then we do yoga on Fridays, which they've totally embraced and has been really good for their body and kind of let them cool down for the weekends. And then we're big on playing. You got to play. All this range stuff is warm up, and you got to learn to compete and get on the golf course and see bunkers and lakes and brush and wind and all those different variables to learn how to score. And that's really what it comes down to. So we put them under the gun all the time, and we compete. We're going to compete today, even though it's a practice round, and just try to make them as uncomfortable as possible at all times.
So do you do anything special? You talk about making them uncomfortable out there. Do you put them in different scenarios? Do you just let them play their ball throughout the round? What do you do to make that happen?
Yeah, we'll put them in different scenarios. We'll talk a lot of talking back and forth to each other, kind of calling each other out and putting them under pressure at some point. Yeah, like I said, just not making them feel good. Stand right next to them, talk to them while they're swinging, things of that nature, just to be a little bit different.
Pretty much the opposite of what everyday golfers are going to do out on the golf course.
Exactly.
I like that a lot.
Yeah, so it seems to work most of the time.
Yeah, that's good, and that's, I think, going to that next level. That's what you always hear about when we're trying to take the next step, is trying to get out of the comfort zone. You always hear that. Try to get out of your comfort zone. Don't be comfortable, because when you get in that moment, you will not be comfortable at all. So get prepared for it.
Right, definitely. It was so interesting to listen to Patrick Cantley this past couple weeks. It's just been phenomenal to watch. But being able to get kind of in that trance of just like not even knowing what's going on, not hearing the crowds, not seeing anything in the leaderboards and whatnot, it's hard to do. But he's been able to do that, and I think a lot of goals of these kids would be the same. And it was funny, he said the reason Tiger was so different, that he was able to get in that trance, but then he was an entertainer at the same time, so he would be that focused, then all of a sudden the fist pump would come out of the blue, and then be able to get back in that trance. So that's what's so special about Tiger.
Yeah, that's awesome. It's just like you said, it's one thing to be able to get into that zone, but then to be able to be in that zone and be present enough to be able to show that emotion when you earned it, that's a whole nother level.
Yes.
So how hard is that to coach?
It's hard, especially at this level. There's so many distractions, so much going on. But I think you have to talk about it and you got to be aware of it and try to understand it. So, we're the developmental tour for the PGA Tour is the way I look at it. So we need to kind of experiment on things like that and try to get them in those places so that we better themselves, for their future.
So as far as the guys that are on your team right now, do you see any one of them? I mean, obviously you have hopes and aspirations for them to take it to the next level, but is there anyone in particular, they might hear, this podcast at one point, but that you feel is going to take to the next level?
I mean, they all have the potential. I think it's just a matter of taking them to that next level. I mean, on paper, we got a kid from Thailand, Puit, who's ranked about 20th in the world, and won 3 times last year, and he's got a very, very good shot. But time will tell. Hopefully a couple of them will have that opportunity.
Awesome. Well, yeah, we wish you a lot of good luck out here this week, and I'm sure the guys will do well. It's just a great venue to be out here. We're glad you could come enjoy it and bring the guys out, and thanks for taking the time to come and sit with us here. We really appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you, Ryan.
Thanks, guys.
Yeah,
really
that was
appreciate it as
awesome.
well.
Yeah,
awesome. Thank you, man. That was some spectacular inside information. What a wonderful opportunity to have that. I mean, a guy who's played collegiate golf himself. He's coached unarguably one of the best players in the world.
At this moment, you can say he's top 12, top 10 in at least the United States, right?
Right. I mean, Stricker feels like he's good enough to play on the Ryder Cup team, later this month. So, and he won an Olympic gold medal.
And not too many people get to say that you've won an Olympic gold medal and that you're just one of the top, obviously, in the world.
Right. What I thought was interesting is, and I think a lot of people, amateur golfers, right, speaking to a lot of people here, spend too much time grinding it out on the range rather than getting on the golf course and putting themselves in scenarios. And they practice all this time on the range, and then they go out and get into a competitive game, whether it's for $5, $20, $100, and then they get
way too uncomfortable.
Get uncomfortable because their practice time isn't spent on the golf course.
And let's back that up real fast too, because not only is their practice time, it's just spent in the wrong place, but it's also spent literally in the wrong place. They're spending time on the range. They're not spending time on the practice green. They're not spending time chipping and pitching. Where if they're going to be spending all that time in the practice area, I would rather see them doing it in that short game area rather than on the driving range. Now take the next step. They're spending all that time on the driving range or the practice, whatever you're doing. Needs to be more time on the course and playing.
Right, because no matter how skilled you are, the best player in the world or a 20 handicap, right? The best player in the world is going to go out there and he's going to hit bad golf shots over the course of 18 holes. It's not going to be as many bad ones as your average golfer, but he's still going to hit bad golf shots. And what makes a good golfer is not your ability to hit a ton of great shots. It's your ability to recover after a poor shot.
Right, and I think going even further on that, it's being able to be comfortable with that uncomfortableness.
Right.
So for example, we were playing Desert Mountain Outlaw the other day, and I was 5 under through 6 holes.
I had it going, absolutely.
I was on
a rope
pretty well, but
I started birdie eagle.
But I haven't really been there too often. Right.
No,
I've been under par very well, but I was not in that position and I have not practiced being in that position, so it's hard to keep yourself in that position.
It's very difficult. You start to get uncomfortable because you haven't been there before. I mean, a lot of people can relate to this point where you have kind of a low round going, right? And you're getting to 15, 16, right? And you're like, man, I could shoot my best score of my life.
Right, whatever the number is,
Whatever the number
relative
doesn't matter.
to you, just your best round.
Exactly, and you're like, wow, that thought starts creeping in your head. I could really post a good number here, and then you go and make a double because you just took yourself out of the moment.
Started thinking about the score, started thinking about anything else except for what you were supposed to be thinking about, which was the next shot in front of you.
Exactly. So, I mean, it's happened to myself. I mean, it happened to me, last year I was 6 under through 8 holes, and I started thinking 29.
Yep. Yeah, and that's pretty much what I did too. And I actually started thinking 30 because that's pretty much what was my next one. 5 under through 6, so then 30 would be the next one. So then if I got to, then I would probably be thinking 29. But I was just trying to keep the next one instead of just thinking about the next shot. I'm going by score rather than going by shot.
Right. So I get up. I'm 6 under through 8 holes, and I get up at my home golf course, right? And I get up on the 9th tee, and I snap hook one left out of bounds, and I think that might actually be the only time I've actually gotten one over the fence ever playing that hole. I've hit it into the left desert every now and then, but got it over the fence, and that's just because I was uncomfortable and I was thinking about it. So rewinding back to what we were talking about, he likes to put his players, on the golf course, and he said, they're going to go out there and they're going to grind today, even though it's a practice round. They're not going to take it casual.
No, and this one, I think a good player is going to make today the hardest day of the week.
Right, he's going to make himself grind, focus, like every shot counts, like it's the actual tournament round.
Yeah, because if you make this harder than the tournament round, when you get to the tournament round, it's actually easy, right? You're not actually just preparing for that. I think that's even what a lot of good players do, and they prepare for the wrong thing. They're preparing for the tournament. They're not, they're preparing for the tournament to be the hardest thing of their journey. They're not preparing for the grind and the process, the preparation to be the hardest part of the journey.
Right.
That's just what's getting you there.
Right, and it just goes to the point that the more often you put yourself in that pressure-packed scenario, the more you'll get comfortable being in that zone.
Right, and I think that's a lot of, you'd hear new football players that the speed of the game moves really fast, right? Everything moves really fast, and I think anybody can kind of relate to this in whatever profession or anything that they do, that when you're new to something, it moves really fast, but when you're more comfortable with it and you've been around it more, everything starts to slow down more. It just seems to be slow, literally slower, physically slower. Everything moves slower, and I think when you're in that competition setting, even in golf, everything starts to speed up for you. You're starting to play good. Everything starts to happen so fast. It's moving so fast through your head. So what you need to do is practice on slowing it down. But if you don't practice putting yourself in those situations, you're never going to have practice on slowing it down. It's not going to be second nature to just slow down. You're going to speed up and make it worse.
Right. Like if you want to be a better tournament golfer, whether that's tournament at your home club, right, men's club championship,
whatever
women's
it
club
is,
championship, you need to start playing as much tournament golf as you can.
Right.
Even if you don't feel like you're ready, put yourself in that. It doesn't matter. Just you got to start somewhere, and you got to start playing tournament golf.
Right. Even if you're just trying to shoot a certain number, even if it's for 18, 36 holes, it doesn't matter. Whatever you're trying to do, if you're trying to pass a certain thing, you need to play more golf.
Absolutely. Get out on the golf course, play as many holes as you can. I know a lot of people, work, obviously, right? I mean, and time's limited, but if you can get out and play 9 after work, go do that rather than hit a bucket of range balls.
Right.
Hit maybe a couple to loosen up on the range, but then get on the golf course.
Play 4 holes instead of hitting a bucket of range balls.
Right. Yeah, totally agree with that. Absolutely.
A lot of golf courses now will do 3, 6, 9 hole loops, whatever, to make it easier for time-sensitive issues, whatever it is. But you do not want to be stuck on the driving range all the time, hitting your driver as far as you can.
Right, exactly. And I mean, every lie in the range is perfect. I mean, you grab a ball from the bucket or from the pyramid and you rake it over and you give yourself a good lie.
Right. What percentage when you play? What's the percentage of good lies that you have?
That are flat and perfect?
Right. 15, 20, maybe, if that. I mean, you get 4 on the tee boxes for each part 3. I mean, every other.
So that, yeah.
So, but other than that, you're really not. Right. You're not getting many even lies.
No, you're going to be hitting out of the rough. The ball could be sitting up in the rough. It could be sitting down. The ball's going to be above your feet, below your feet, uphill lie, downhill lie, combination of 2 of those.
Now, unless you're a facility like Mirabel that, as we've mentioned before, has the uneven lies range, you're not going to get to practice that on the driving range.
Right, exactly. And I mean, and we talked about what makes a good golfer and what makes the ability to have a good round, and that's the ability to recover after a poor shot. You're gonna have a poor shot, so that's why Mark mentioned go to the chipping area, have that ball sit down in the rough, and figure out how to get up and down from there.
Yeah, don't always hit the easy shot. Don't practice the easy shot. Practice the hard ones. Get comfortable with them. As
much as you think you're going to go out and hit 16 of 18 greens in your next round,
you're just not.
It's not going to happen. So,
sorry.
If you hit 8 greens, for an average golfer, 8 or 9 greens out of 18 is going to be probably an okay day, and
for sure.
So that means if you want to start saving shots, getting up and down 4 out of 9 times, 5 out of 9 times on those other greens that you're missing, that's what's going to bring that number down really quickly. Not being able to hit your driver 10 yards further, that's not going to bring that number down.
No, and that's only going to, all that's going to do is instead of hitting a 6-iron to the green, now you have a 7-iron.
Exactly.
So, I mean, how much closer are you going to hit that 7-iron than the 6? I mean, they're about the same exact club.
Right, exactly. I mean, you're going to hit some good shots over the course of the round. Maybe, honestly, if you walk yourself back through a good round, maybe 2 or 3 shots you can point out where that I hit that exactly where I wanted to, but the majority of the time it's not going to go there. So you got to figure out, okay, I hit the green, but now I got a 2-putt from 30 feet, right? And you get a 3-putt, there's an extra stroke you just threw out the window.
When I was just talking to you about this the other day, Tiger Woods was talking about in one of his My Game episodes that over the course of a 4-round tournament, he may hit 2 really good shots. I mean, that's if you're shooting even par, 280, it's 280 strokes. So let's just say half of those are shots. So 140 shots you're hitting, and 2 of them are great. I mean, that's less than 2%. I mean, it's not great percentages for great shots, right? So it's all now. His miss might be better than most of our great shots, even. So his standards are obviously different, but if we're going by those same numbers, we don't stand a chance.
No, definitely not. So, the moral of the story again, get yourself on the golf course. Play as much competitive golf as you can, and we promise that you'll find the more competitive golf you play, the more comfortable you'll get. Now, that's not saying your nerves are going to go away. If your nerves aren't there, it means you just don't care, right? I mean, both you and myself, we play a lot of competitive golf, especially over the summertime and Southwest PGA section events, playing against other club professionals. And, both of us probably played in close to a dozen events this summer. And every time we step out on that first tee box, the nerves are the same. But where we get more comfortable is through the course of the round. You get the nerves off that first tee, and then you start to get yourself in that zone.
Well, and just to back up a little bit too, I think for a second standing on that first tee, you feel nervous. But once you realize that you've put in the preparation, you put in the practice, and you're ready, those nerves go away. But if you haven't put that in, you're probably going to stay nervous.
Yeah, definitely. So, you get yourself out on the golf course, and you really got to keep your mind in the present, shot by shot. I mean, Ryan, mentioned that with Patrick Cantlay, how he can actually get out on the golf course in a PGA Tour event with scoreboards everywhere, fans everywhere, and he can get to the point where he doesn't notice any of that. Isn't that that's unimaginable to me?
It's amazing, and what I think I liked a lot of it with, I shouldn't say I like anything with COVID stuff, but I think what I liked hearing from a lot of that stuff was how much they noticed the fans being gone.
Right.
I think that made it tougher for them than anything because they were so used to having all that stuff there to where they didn't notice it. Now when it's not there, it's almost eerie.
Right, exactly. Almost too quiet for
Right. It's like when you walk in, if you're used to something, hustling and bustling, and you walk in and it's really quiet and really dead, something's wrong.
Right, exactly.
And that's probably how you feel when you're out on tour like that. You normally got a bunch of drunk people yelling at you, making a bunch of noise. Now all of a sudden it's dead quiet.
Right, and it's just this different feeling, and you start to hear things you're not used to hearing, and
you're playing golf like we play it.
Your sight line's different because your fairway's not lined with fans. Now you just got the trees and the OB stakes staring in the face.
It's totally different. But then now we're getting back more to their normal type of golf and what they're more prepared for, because these guys are more used to that. They want that around, and it just makes it easier for them to, like what we were saying, it just makes it more comfortable, right? You're trying to make everything the same, trying to make it all similar to where you're never feeling out of your comfort zone.
Right, and that was definitely a funny story that he initially offered Xander only a half scholarship.
Right, and that's kind of why I asked him about that too, because at that moment I don't think there's really much. Obviously with Tiger or something, there's going to be something that stands out, but I don't think that time there's really anything that makes anybody better than anybody else. It's whoever is willing to put in the extra work. Like you said, he took night classes, so he could pretty much grind it out all day long, right? Now, you could probably just work it around to where you're taking classes in the morning and then working out at night or whatever, but he fully maximized his time to where he can be outside on the golf course working out, doing whatever, fully dedicated to golf, to where then that time came where it was quiet time. That's when he's focusing on school. So, I mean, talk about having your priorities straight.
I mean, absolutely dedicated to the game. Also to his, I mean, he went to class, passed his classes. He's got to get through college.
Right. He wasn't just focused on golf. He did well in school.
Right.
Too.
But you even heard him, like he said, that they work out at 6 a.m. So
right.
he's up at 5 o'clock, maybe 5:30, getting to the gym for his 6 a.m. workouts, then going and practicing, and spending majority of the day practicing, and then probably getting some schoolwork done when he can, and then going to class from 7 to 9:30 or whatever it was, 4 days a week.
Yeah, I mean, if I worked out at 6 a.m., I'd probably not be doing the show right now, because I'd probably be getting taken off in a stretcher, because I'd be pulling some muscles.
It'd be nap time pretty soon.
Yeah, it's you won't find me working out at 6 a.m., and that's why you're not finding me on the PGA Tour as well.
Right. Yeah. It definitely takes. And he said, that's why he's such a, he's had so much success. It's not necessarily anything but his mind and his drive, and he always wanted, every time he stepped up on the tee, no matter what event it was, where he was playing, when he was playing, what he was playing for, he wanted to go out and fire the best round possible.
And that's hard to do in this game. It's not like here where in some other sports, maybe you can just sheer will yourself if you're strong or whatever. There's always in this game someone that's going to be better than you.
Yeah, absolutely. And you're playing with that guy, and if you're going around the golf course and he's beating you by 3 or 4, I tell you what, it does not make you very happy. All you want to do is try to catch up.
And the harder you try, the worse it gets.
Exactly.
So that's why it's really impressive to hear about some of these stories who make it, just because they put in so much more than usually anybody's ever even willing to think about putting in.
Right. Tell you what, it's going to be fun to watch at Ryder Cup and see Xander and see how USA does. But
I can't wait to get out here this weekend and watch some of these guys play too.
Absolutely.
That's going to be it's a stripe show on the range right now. Ryan's guys from San Diego State are just wrapping up. They're getting ready to go start their tee time here for the practice round here at the Maui Jim Intercollegiate. So we're going to go see if we can watch some of them and see what else is going on, and we'll get back and check it out later.
Absolutely great guest segment. Wow, that was some great content that we had in episode 2. Very, very pleased with how that went. Ryan had some really good things to say.
Yeah, that was really good to sit down and talk to him.
Right, and I think I mentioned, I know this was a few days ago now, when we were out there, but I mentioned that I thought the team score for under par was going to be somewhere in the mid-20s.
Right. I think that's what head professional Dave Ingram had mentioned.
Right, he thought it'd be somewhere in the mid-20s. So they turned this par 71, as we talked about while we were out there, into a par 70, because they turned a 560-yard par 5 into a 520-yard par 4.
Right, which most of you, if you don't realize, most of the par 5s you play are 520 yards at the longest.
Right. So they turned this medium short length par 5 into a long par 4 for these guys, and well, just goes to show that I was wrong, and the winning score was Georgia Tech, their team score. So they took the best 4 out of 5 each day, and over 3 rounds they shot a combined total of 44 under par.
And that's just absolutely ridiculous.
On day 2, they averaged 65.5.
So 4.5 shots under par per player, with par being 70.
Right.
Yeah, so it's the 65 is pretty impressive. I mean,
Right. So on day 3, they limped it in with a combined total of 10 under to win.
I wish I could ever make that claim that I limped it in 10 under.
Right. So yeah, as a team combined, they limped it in at 10 under to win by 1 shot over Clemson at 43 under, and then sounds funny saying way back in 3rd place was Auburn at 31 under, but
Wow.
I mean that's
12, a big gap.
That's 12 shots between 3rd and 2nd.
Yeah, I mean it's really not if you think about it, because over 3 days, 4 golfers per day.
Right.
That's basically 1 shot per golfer per day.
Right.
So-
Right. It just sounds like a lot.
Right. It sounds like a lot when you add them up over the course of 3 days.
Right. And so if we go on the individual, and we thought the individual would be, I don't know, maybe 8 under, 9 under, 10 under, somewhere
Yeah.
around in there. It ended up being 17 under over 3 rounds.
And that's just wild.
Right, because we've both played this golf
I mean,
course.
this is a PGA Tour quality course.
It is.
I mean, these guys are not going out there and playing a pitch and putt.
It's desert golf. So if you blast one wide,
yeah, and there's a lot of those areas out there.
right, good luck making bogey.
If you can find it, good luck making bogey. If not, you're going to probably make double.
Right, exactly.
So if they make one of those, they're going to have to make 3 birdies, 2 birdies just to get it back.
Right, so the low individual was from Auburn, 17 under par. J.M. Butler, so I guess keep that guy on your radar going forward. Second place was he won by a shot. 16 under par was second. That came from Georgia Tech. And third place was 15 under par from Washington. And Arizona State.
There you go.
Arizona State in T3, also at 15 under par.
Yeah,
so
well, congratulations to all those guys too. I mean, just to go play in that tournament is really special. I mean, we were talking to some of the guys from Augusta, and we were just talking about this a minute ago, but just referring to the club as the National is pretty special. So these kids all have a lot of privileges that a lot of people don't play when you get to refer to Augusta National as the National.
Right. So we learned, we were out there. Obviously, it was an honor to be able to talk to, or just a privilege to be able to talk to these kids that are playing at such a high level for golf. I mean, we watch, it's unfortunate, in my opinion, that collegiate golf isn't shown on TV that often.
And they're getting better at it. They do show a lot.
A
on
little
the Golf
bit more,
Channel.
but not as much as probably that I.
Well, like
my
this
personal thing
would
that
have
I'd
been
like to
a
see.
great one to show on TV. I mean, there's how many top 20 schools? I mean, Georgia Tech is ranked top. They're actually ranked 8th in the nation. I just saw that today.
Right.
So I mean, there's good schools out there.
Right, and I mean, a lot of these guys go straight from college to the PGA. They skip the Corn Ferry because they're that good, and it's unfortunate that we don't get to see these up and comers as much on TV as. That I, in my opinion, that I would like to.
Right, and I guess that's probably us being a little bit more golf nerds too, right? Because they don't show minor league baseball really on air.
That's true.
I mean, they do, but it's more in the small market, right?
True.
So I guess it's more what we're looking for as just people who love golf. But I would agree with you too. It would be nice to be able to see that more often in the venues that we get to play more often. I mean, they show, the Nationals was at Greyhawk. I mean, a lot of people go out and play Greyhawk if they get the chance, but just to be able to see it on places that we're going out to all the time, that's cool.
It is. It's. I mean, it was fantastic being out there. We were on the range and watching these kids warm up for their practice round, right? And we're seeing the teams come in, and the teams go out as a single tee time. They play in a fivesome, and they go out and play the golf course with their coach and get a feel for the course. And we're watching them warm up on the range, and Georgia Tech comes in. And there's this guy I say. He was definitely tall. Young man.
Yeah, he looked probably older than us, but
right.
He wasn't.
I would say, fair estimate, probably 6'4", lean, maybe 230.
Very fit.
220.
All of
as
these
far
kids
as
were
weight.
fit, by the way.
But he was teeing this ball half an inch to an inch off the ground with his driver and absolutely ripping it.
Yeah, hitting huge, nice high balls, huge balls that were carrying 340, 350.
Right.
I mean, and we're not exaggerating on that number. 340, 350, this high off the ground.
Right. Just absolutely ripping these shots. And so that we talked to David Ingram, the director of golf at Mirabel, and he's out on the par 4 that we mentioned. The par 5 turned into a par 4, 520. And he's, down the hole away. He's kind of spotting a little bit, paying attention. And he hears this ball land. And he's like, what the heck? Because he thought he was way out of range.
Right.
So in this 520-yard par 4, the kid from Georgia Tech bombs one down there over 370 yards and has a gap wedge into this 520-yard par 4.
And he may hit his gap wedge long, but that is absolutely ridiculously long. Off the tee.
A gap wedge is probably not hitting more than 140.
Oh, that's what I'm saying. It's ridiculously long off the
Right.
tee. You're standing down there in a spot where you think you're safe, and all of a sudden you're getting a missile dropped in on you.
Right.
Know?
So
he probably can't even see you where he's at.
Right. So 370. So
yeah, how do you see a golf ball fall down that far away?
Right. It's unbelievable the talent that's out there. I mean, it's super humbling as a golf professional and someone that plays every day and works hard at their game, to myself go out to Mirabel and I'm going to have a good day and I'm going to shoot, a couple under. It would be a great day at Mirabel because it's a difficult golf course.
Yeah.
And to see these guys go out and his rounds, let's see, the winner Auburn went 66, 64, 63.
That's ridiculous.
Got better every day.
Yeah, it got better every day, and he started with the 66.
Right. And
so
then
it's not like he shot even the first
right,
day.
and then shot 7 under in the final round.
And it wasn't like the wind didn't pick up at all. We were out on that practice round. You heard in the podcast, the wind was picking up a little bit. So it's not like it was just a benign day with really easy conditions. I mean, it was playing pretty tough.
Right, absolutely. So a lot of talents. It's great for the game of golf. I mean, it's just going to make it more and more competitive at the top level, which is fantastic for everybody.
No, yeah, everybody wins in that situation because then everybody coming in from lower just gets better too.
Exactly. So
everybody just keeps improving, and everybody keeps working harder. That's one of the things I took away from talking about just with the kids' work ethic with Ryan. Just the ones that make it. They may not have anything else that anybody else doesn't have skill-wise, but they're willing to put the extra time in and the extra effort to make that pay off, to utilize that skill and not just let it go by the wayside.
Right. It's impressive. It's impressive how hard they work, and the time that they put in and the dedication that they have to their craft.
Yeah, they're talented, but they've also earned it.
Right.
They've worked hard to
exactly.
get it.
I mean, they're right on the edge of the next level.
Right.
They don't know what's going to happen. They might as well at this point, and they've done it for their whole junior career, everything. Just put 110% effort in, not maybe 120%, just everything that they can to be the best golfer that they can every single day.
Every time that they go out there. And what's impressive, too, is that they went right from there. Most of them went straight to another tournament.
Right.
I mean, Georgia Tech got a private jet, and I don't know what tournament they went to, but 2 days later, I think they were playing in another tournament. So the Maui Jim wrapped up on Sunday. They were playing on Tuesday.
Right, and they got to keep up with school at the same time.
School's going on. They're not just professional golfers, or we just sit around and get to talk about golf all day. They got to go to school.
Right. So, I mean, that's kind of where I wanted to go with my point of, you see the basketball players, you see the football players on TV. Everybody's watching college football on Saturday. Once basketball season rolls around, I mean, you're watching those invitational tournaments at the beginning of the year, then you're watching conference championships, then you're watching.
These are those guys in golf.
Right, exactly. And it's unfortunate that we don't see it as much on TV. Like the NCAA basketball tournament comes on, and everyone's glued to their TV for 3 weeks.
Yeah, it's the whole nation's captivated.
Right.
Well, and that's why you got to rely on the Valley Golf guys to bring you this exclusive content out at these tournaments, because not everybody's willing to go out there like the Valley Golf guys are. So you get the exclusive interviews with coaches and get to hear stuff that you won't hear on normal media outlets.
Right, we're kind of spoiled that we get to do this.
Yeah. So, but we want to bring it to you as well. We don't want to hoard it ourselves. We want to pass on that information so you get to hear it as well.
Right. So I think one of the coolest things also, just an end note here, is that when obviously, these teams have tournaments, and this was Georgia State's Georgia State's tournament.
That's where Dave went to school.
Right, David Ingram, the director of golf at Mirabel, he went to college there, so Georgia State holds their invitational tournament at Mirabel. Well, Augusta State holds their invitational at Augusta National.
The National.
The National, that's what they call it, the National. They
National.
just kind of casually refer to it as the National.
The National.
Right, so everyone's bucket list.
Yeah, I told the kid, that's you get to play something every year that's on my bucket list, right? And he just really didn't even think anything of it.
Right.
Just, all right, mate.
I think a lot of golfers would give their right arm and play Augusta National with one arm.
Yeah. Yeah, just to be out there, walking the grounds.
Just to be out there.
Well, and that's where we're spoiled as PGA professionals because we could just show up on the grounds at the Masters and go walk in.
Right, exactly.
So that's something that we'll need to take advantage of too. So it's an easy bucket list item that can be checked off for someone like us.
I was just surprised that they said that they get to hold their tournament a week before the Masters.
Right, and we might have to check on that.
We might have to check
because
on that.
I don't know if it was, we might have misheard. Because I heard the same thing you did.
Yeah.
And I just thought that would be a lot of traffic and a lot of wear and tear. I mean, these kids beat up the course. The range, when they were done, was just
littered.
It was just landmine of divots.
It was.
I'd be interested to see if they played it the same way or if they played it from the same tees, because those par threes, they've got to be beat up by the time they're done.
Right.
So unless they just go and replace all the grass.
Right. I just thought it was interesting how they're like, yeah, I've played Augusta twice. I've played Augusta 3 times.
Yeah. Oh, how many times have you played the National?
Right. Well, I've never
twice this last year.
Right. Yeah.
It's like just very casual conversation.
Never even been there.
Yeah. I mean, we're standing there like really wide-eyed, like, what? Augusta National?
Did I hear that right?
Yeah. And they're just, whatever. We'll play it. We'll play it later this year. Yeah. Whatever.
I don't know. It was just a great
experience.
Great
humbling experience.
Yeah.
So. Yeah. Very. We were very fortunate to be able to go out there, and we probably annoyed you by saying that, so we won't say it anymore, but we did enjoy it very much.
Awesome.
Yeah, we'll look forward to episode 3, and we'll have some good content coming for you soon, and thanks for watching.
Yep, absolutely. Stay tuned, everybody.